Joining us now is our very own James Johnson from JLPartners. He conducts our focus groups, if you can't recognize him there in his cold weather garb, but he's actually on the ground in Iowa City, Iowa. So James, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for suffering on our behalf. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I've got 2 pairs of trousers on. It's a first, a life first for me.
Smart man,
I can't even imagine. Yeah. So we're going to keep this as short as possible so that you can get yourself inside. James, you've been conducting interviews with caucus goers. Tell us a little bit about what you're learning, speaking to voters on the ground, who you're hearing from in terms of the type of support for each individual candidate, and what you expect to happen tonight.
Yeah, well, the first thing I think to say is that we put out a recruiting call when we try and get our interviews, so we can try and make sure that we're getting a fair range of people who might represent the middle of Iowa politics. And I have to say, the number of Trump supporters we've had in return is really quite significant. And that obviously mirrors what people are seeing in the polls as well. Trump is clearly the favorite going into tonight. And the voters who are backing Trump, it's interesting, they're not factional, they're not sort of, really hardcore Trumpists, ready to go out and sort of, rally for the former president. They're middle-of-the-ground Republicans who simply see him as the incumbent. They see him as strong, they see him as someone who gets things done, and they see him as somebody who's had an effective first term. I was speaking to a chap last week in Davenport in Iowa, and he said that he was worried about the economy, prices going up. He thought Trump would fix that because of his record. He's worried about the southern border. He thought Trump would finish the wall. And he's worried that under Biden, we need to, quote, prepare for war because Russia and North Korea would take advantage of him. He sees Trump as the strong man to counter that. So there's definitely a lot of that groundswell of support for Trump here. But there's also good support for Ron DeSantis as well. He's clearly had a very effective ground campaign in the state. People who are a little bit less sure on Trump but still want that sort of hard conservative politics, fiery conservative politics, are going with Ron DeSantis. Nikki Haley, a little bit more muted. It's interesting, if you look at that Seltzer poll that came out just a couple of days ago, the final Iowa poll, it showed Nikki Haley in second place. But it also showed that half of her support came from Democrats and independents. And you might be able to see from me now that it's very cold here. And I'm not convinced that Nikki Haley is going to be able to turn out loads of new registrants to the Republican Party tonight to get her over the line.
And how about Vivek Ramaswamy, who Trump has just gone after? Vivek had an interesting response saying basically like, I'm sort of protecting Trump from himself. They're going to take him out. A vote for me is a vote to protect Trump is effectively the case he's making there. But Vivek has spent more time in Iowa, done more events than any other candidate. Do you see any signs that that has moved the needle for him in a way that may not be getting picked up in the polls?
I think Vivek Ramaswamy might slightly overperform his polling, but I think it's going to be hard for him to break 10, 15%. And the reason why is that for a lot of voters, they're not paying attention to the minutiae. They're not going to all these Iowa events. For them, they just look at the news and they see Trump, and then there's DeSantis and Haley who are close, who are behind him. And that's sort of their calculation. I do think Vivek Ramaswamy's clearly ran a punchy campaign. If there's one impact of it, it might be an accidental one. His straight talking and plain speaking has shone a bit of a light on Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley for being a little bit more polished, a little bit more manufactured. A chap I was talking to again last week in Iowa, he was saying, I like DeSantis, but he's a bit of a wannabe. He's a little bit of a politician wannabe. And they didn't like that too much at all.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I could see some of that. So, I mean, and overall, James, could you just tell us about any unexpected things? You think the weather, obviously, as you can see behind you, you think that's going to play a major role. Anything else that our viewers should look out for?
I think the big number to watch is Trump support. If Donald Trump gets below 40%, then he is going to be in trouble in those later primaries. People are going to say Trump hasn't got the support he wanted. He's in a dangerous position. He's going into this race with high polling numbers. And Iowa and these primaries are all about expectations and beating expectations. So he's going in with those high expectations. If he gets below 40%, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on Donald Trump's support. If he gets over 50%, then I think a lot of people are going to be saying, let's just wrap it up now. And if he gets in between 40 and 50, then we may well see a competitive New Hampshire, but ultimately he'll probably succeed in those Super Tuesday states. So that's what I'd say to watch out for. Yes, the race for second place is interesting, but it's going to be whether Trump goes below 40 or over 50 that will really make the difference tonight.
Last question I've got for you, James, and then we'll let you get back inside where it is hopefully a little bit warmer. One theory that I have seen that I don't particularly buy, but I want to see if you see any signs of this, is that people basically take for granted that Trump's going to win. So yeah, his supporters are numerous. They are excited about Donald Trump. But when they're looking at like minus 30 degrees and snow piled up, they might think like, this guy's got in the bag anyway. He doesn't really need me to come out and caucus for him, so I'm just going to stay home and be warm and cozy. Do you see any signs or any possibility of that coming through?
Yeah, so definitely Donald Trump supporters are more likely to be first-time caucus goers. You're absolutely right.
Oh, interesting.
But they're also the more likely to be enthusiastic across the board. So in that Seltzer poll, 88% of Trump supporters said they were enthusiastic about turning out for him. That was the highest of all the candidates. Now, when you drill down to very enthusiastic, DeSantis pipped the post. But I still think those overall numbers of enthusiasm for Trump will get his people there. If anybody's not going to be turning out, it will be Democrats and independents. You can register to be a Republican on the night tonight, regardless of how you voted or how your registration has been in the past. But can I see droves of Democrats and independents coming out and registering Republican only to re-register as their existing party a couple of weeks later? On a night like this, on, let's face it, not the most exciting primary season of the last 20 years or so, I can't see it, and I think that's going to mean that DeSantis and Trump do quite well tonight.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time, James. Go get inside, drink some tea, as I know you guys would like to do, and get warm for us. And we will talk to you very, very soon, my friend.
Yeah,
Thank you
stay
very
safe,
much.
James. Thank you.
Great to chat, guys.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.